New information about possible new features coming to No Man's Sky likely very soon. If you don't like potential spoilers for coming updates, now would be the time to click away, because we're going to talk about them here in the LZ. My fellow travelers, you have docked at a space station, used your station override, and it disappointingly led you here to the LZ. Thank you so much for stopping by. New news about the new upcoming updates for No Man's Sky. Everything that you hear today is a giant pinch of salt. I hate saying pinch of salt. It's such a weird term, and it just feels weird to say. But this morning, I was tagged on Twitter by several users, predominantly that Bomber Boy on Twitter. Thanks for sharing this information for me. And he also shared a cornucopia of images for what looks to be new space stations. Okay, so from here, I'm going to start showing images that were shared with me on the video here. A couple of things to note, or a couple of things that I'm told. This was, first off, you're probably thinking, okay, maybe this is just a mod and somebody's putting together some elaborate mod. I did try to be diligent and ask those questions. So I've been told by multiple sources, I'm also seeing in the No Man's Sky Discord, that this is apparently real things that were being hidden or sort of hiding in the game's current files since the most recent update. And the big vibe that I'm getting looks to be a massive space station overhaul. Some other things to note here is that pretty much all of the space stations that you're seeing here are the color green. I'm told that is because the sort of engine that would dictate the color changes and the procedural colors for these isn't implemented yet, so really just the default color for everything is green. I'm also told that the interior as of yet is just the regular interior of the everyday space stations that we already have, which, any of this is subject to change, of course. Pre-updates, anything that you see here could be what you see or even bigger. But I gotta say, these look pretty impressive so far. I'm really digging the look. Now, as to how these were come across, I was told that just simply diving through the files and eventually finding these particular assets is what happened. And I'm told by multiple folks that are modders that this is not a mod, but rather a mod was used in order to implement the assets into the game. So these aren't handmade assets made by modders. This is a mod that has introduced it into their current version of the game so that you can see the pictures and video. Now, for those looking for context here, the space stations have gone quite a while without any evolution to them. As a matter of fact, very funny. It's probably, I think, since before the Beyond update, is when space stations were pretty much last touched. Space stations at launch in the first couple of years were really just sort of space stations with like a landing room, and there was like a door on the left and the right that would take you to like 2 additional rooms. For as large as space stations are, there's so little inhabitable space in space stations, it's kind of funny. And I might be a little more inaccurate on the time frame here. Keep me honest in the comments, my friends, but I'm pretty sure the new space station override, or the new thing at the back, the giant orb that you can put the useless, or as of this time, useless station override into, that's been implemented into the game for like more than a year now. But the station override literally serves no purpose. And so this kind of goes to sort of my preachings and several other content creators' preachings too about, adding things to the game sort of out of nowhere with no context and no use, and say, there it is, and then having to wait years for for them to be active, right? The boundary failures have been in the game since forever, I think, almost since launch. I would say probably since launch or pretty close to launch. They were introduced in sort of a new reset, but they do almost nothing. It took them a year to introduce functionality for portals while we were all just idiots running around the game finding portals and trying to figure out how to activate them. It's kind of embarrassing looking back. And I know that I was generally unkind to the previous update that launched. Fractals was kind of a disappointment for me because after 5 months of no content, simply the scope of that update wasn't very big. But going from what we're seeing here, it looks like we got some pretty big drops coming for No Man's Sky. Space stations really have deserved an override since at least Beyond. Beyond, if you remember correctly, or if you were not here from back in the Beyond days, in the implementation of VR, they also doubled the size of starships just to make them sort of feel more realistic when you're playing in VR. And they also look much cooler now. You, before the Beyond update, your fighter ships were like the equivalent of you standing next to your Mazda Miata. Like, you were taller, much taller than the size of your car if you were a standard 6-foot tall person. So it was a really cool change. But what happened with that is they didn't evolve the size of the interiors of space stations as well. So if you have starships that are bigger than the regular standard fighter, then your starship is clipping through everything as you're taking off and landing in a space station. It's still kind of hilarious to me that they're just like, yeah, we're gonna just double the size of ships and then revisit that years later when it comes to clipping through our space stations. So these look really cool. I'm really excited. There's also been other things that have been in the files for a while that haven't been introduced. I think things like elevators, for instance. So maybe that could be part of this update too, as sort of a facilitation of this, maybe hopefully new interiors of space station. I'm not too excited yet. I appreciate the overhaul. I appreciate how these look. At the end of the day, they need to be functional as well, right? This needs to come with functional changes too. If it's just the same interior as an everyday space station that we currently have, then it's just for looks, which I'm not mad about. I'm just disappointed in because the space station really is, I think, one of the central aspects of No Man's Sky, and it has gone largely sort of ignored, sort of like starships, other than some tweaks, maybe a new couple of starships here, increasing the size of starships. Of course, I'm on team shipbuilding, right? Not everybody agrees with that, but I think something like that would be really cool. You can fly into a space station, build your own ship, customize your own ship. That kind of update would be super beefy. I really hope, aside from the exteriors of space stations, that the interior of space stations will also be cared for greatly, because I just don't see the need to have gigantic stations like this, but then having an having an interior that's the size of an efficiency apartment. That's hyperbole, I know, but you get what I'm saying, at the scale and the comparison of those things. Anyway, let me know what you think of the new space stations. Hit me up in the comments, share your thoughts, and stick around in the LZ for more.